All right. So, morning all. Thank you all for your time this morning, and thank you again for Open Banking Week for giving us this opportunity to speak about open banking at this event. So, just to quickly introduce ourselves, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Halada. We are a open banking technology provider for the sub-Saharan region, looking to provide a better access between banks, fintechs, and customers, so they can, in order then build more performing and innovative products. We also have here Bunmi and Ismail. Perhaps Bunmi, I will let you start just to give a little bit of introduction for yourself.
All right, thanks, Fred. My name is Bunmi Wellington, and I lead product development and management at eTransact, and I also support in a lot of product management activities within the Nigerian and African ecosystem. Thanks.
Cool. Ismail.
Yeah. Guys, super happy to be with you on this one. So my name is Ismail Shaib. I mainly help banks, financial institutions, fintech with digital transformation projects. I was for many years Chief Operating Officer at the Open Bank Project, which is one of the pioneers in the open banking space in Europe. And as such, I had the privilege to work on open banking in the UK, across Europe, throughout Latin America as well. And yeah, super happy to have this conversation with you. I'm Algerian, so so Africa is very dear to me. And so, yeah, very excited to have this conversation.
Cool. I think it would be a really interesting conversation that we're going to have now to explore more the use cases that open banking would empower and that open banking would enable in the sub-Saharan region, but with more particular focus towards Nigeria. And then we can confront with your experiences, Ismail, with what open banking enabled in Europe. So we saw more recently in this year that the Central Bank of Nigeria just emitted a circular about open banking in Nigeria. So I believe, Bunmi, that this would be a huge change for the whole financial industry in Nigeria and enable a lot of use cases that are maybe not possible to achieve at the moment. So what's your thoughts around it?
Definitely, it's a great move. I think that the ecosystem has been looking for that and asking for that for a while now. And the fact that CBN has put out a framework gives us, encourages and gives us some motivations to have fintech continue to develop in the region. We have the likes of, we have quite a number of fintechs out there doing great things, creating APIs that enables things like, lending, automation around identity, automation around, insurance and many other things, right? But the reason I think that there hasn't been great adoption or entrepreneurship in those areas is because there wasn't really a framework. And some of the financial institutions that currently exist have not opened up the space to enable, in integration. And as we continue to see more people and more data types, one of the things that we also haven't seen, yes, it's great that CBN has opened up and created this framework, but we also need more data types, meaning that we need other institutions beyond financial service institutions, things like telecom, institutions like telecoms, institutions like maybe even mobile money, institutions like insurance that, gives access to the data. So we're looking at open banking and we're also looking at open data. But it really gives us a lot of innovation opportunities for, intending fintechs already in this space to continue to build use cases, like we said, around lending, around identity, around, just being able to build out, financial services and some non-financial services that support or that enable the low income segment.
Yeah. We know that especially in Nigeria, the banks have a very strong brand entity and are very trusted partners for customers when coming to the daily life, the daily financial life for money, identity, and data. So they are very large established brands for the population. And as mentioned, I believe there's a huge opportunity there to tap into all the institutions' data or sources for banks in turn to provide better personalization, better customer experience for the customers and better analytics for them in turn as well to understand better who are the customers really. So Ismail, I think you may have a very interesting experience, and by looking back at what happened in Europe with PSD2, how did this enable banks to better offer an experience to their customers?
Yes, I think it's definitely opening up new avenues for innovation, right? Like I think everyone realizes today and accept the fact that our banks will not give us everything we want and all the the intricate needs and requirements we want. So it's much better to have the banks, excuse me, the banks on one side providing data, working together collaboratively with the fintech ecosystem, with other actors, and bringing to market new innovations. So you'd have a better quality of services out in the market, and also it's faster, right? So if we wait for the banks to do everything, and there's a backlog, that's like a bottleneck. But if the banks collaborate with others, then obviously that's faster. Things can be done in parallel. I think there's an angle for safety as well, right? Like there's a better, like security around where my data is, who accesses my data. I, as a consumer, decide, who accesses my data when, and I can revoke access. So this whole idea of consent is very, very important. And I think going back to Bunmi's point, it's not just the banks, especially in a context where financial inclusion is a key challenge, right? So it's like multiple actor. It's not just the fintech who can benefit from the data as well. It could be, any sort of type of company can integrate finance and financial services into their apps, right? So that could be your supermarket, that could be your, transport application. It's like really the art of possible is really huge. So so that's how I look at it. Maybe one question that I would have for both of you, Nigeria way better than me, like, are there things happening already in terms of open banking? Like, have you seen use cases like companies leveraging data in really creative ways? Like, what do you think? What's going on over there?
Okay, so I'll go first. So yeah, there have been some interesting things. Like there are a couple of startups. One is doing account checking, like, balance check, letting you know what exactly do you have in your account. There's another one that's automating the lending process. One of the issues that we have is not just the fact that we have that data, it's also a process thing. How do you get one consolidated or aggregated view of where customer information is? And, as a user, as a voice of the customer, usually that's my role within the company. You see that we forget in financial services, we sometimes forget the customer. And what the customer needs is a quick way to just get through that lending process. Not tons of paper I have to sign, tons of paper I need to do. I need to fill out and send, identity, some sort of support in my application, verifying who I am. So we've seen another interesting startup that's doing that, enabling that, a quick, seamless way for me to submit my application, not having to go through the onerous process of having to do that. So those are the two that come to mind, being able to check your account balance quickly, and then also, the process, enabling the process or optimizing the process for lending. Another one that just came to mind right now is the aggregation of accounts. There's a company that allows you to view your various, not all of them, but quite a number of them, view your various different bank accounts in one view. So a lot of interesting things are going on. People are getting really excited about what they can use it for. I think I mentioned in another conversation to you guys about the BVN, and that BVN enables one to validate identity, well, not really identity, but validate the genuineness of your account in Nigeria. And so there are APIs for that allows a financial service provider to check your BVN to validate that with the information that you've provided as a security measure. Ismail mentioned security. So as a security measure to validate the genuinity of your account. So it's pretty interesting what's going on right now. And I know that in the next few years, as this framework is further established, we're going to see a lot of things going on. CBN, Central Bank of Nigeria, one of the things they'll also enable through NIBS is a platform that allows for sandbox. So So there's a lot of that going on. So they have the framework that they've put out there, and then there's a sandbox they put out there to enable, people to test out what the APIs can do. So it's pretty interesting. I look forward to seeing what's truly going to happen in the near future.
Yeah, and to continue on what Bunmi was saying, we are, as part of Halada, currently working with a lending fintech in Nigeria in order to map out how open banking as a technology can help them in turn provide a better user experience for their customers. And we know for a fact that lenders have been working with a lot of paper. I mean, from a historical point of view, if you were a loan applicant looking for a loan, essentially before you had to go through a lot of screens in order to upload your bank statements and enter a huge amount of data. So the lender could in turn provide you the best loan at the best rate possible. Now with open banking, as Bunmi mentioned, there is a huge opportunity for fintechs, but not only fintechs, for banks and any corporate looking to provide financial services for their customers to automate and streamline their processes. So with that company that we are currently working with, we are looking at how can open banking enable them having less screens from an end user, from a consumer perspective. How can we have them enable and streamline their credit decision process? And I would mention one more thing. When we are here mentioning about the lending use case, how could we, in addition to aggregation of transactional data across one user, different accounts, how could we look at analytics, so patterns, to help the company doing better the job, to make the job more efficient? How can we look at different spending patterns, for example? And this is only one use case applied here for lending, but I think we can see a whole lot of use cases expand to how can we, via identification of spending patterns across the different accounts, help people budget and manage better their savings. And I think this is also a huge thing of how me as a consumer, as a daily life person, how would open banking benefit to me? So maybe Bunmi, you already have, some sort of experience, benefit of you as a consumer around the whole range of products that, arise since the last couple of months.
So not necessarily as a consumer, but as a business. So looking at it from a B2B angle, there are a couple of products that we're working on internally that enables you to be able to do payment initiation. So when we think about open banking, one of the things that we look at or enablers, a component of that is payment initiation. So we have something called banking internally that, is an aggregation of, it's a gateway, but instead of cards, it's built on bank accounts. So it enables you to be able to simply move money from your account. So what we've done as an API is provided that to fintechs that need it, provided that to other financial institutions that need it, so that within any framework of what you're doing, you're able to enable payment initiation. So I haven't seen it. I haven't been able to use it more as a consumer. I know that there are some reviews I've done. I won't count that as usage in terms of what people are doing, but I do see that there are opportunities there. The pay stacks of Nigeria, the Flutter waves, all of them, they have these APIs. That's not their core business. They're a gateway, card processing gateways, but they do have these things as a service, the same way eTransact does, to enable people to check. So for example, Paystack has something where you can, and APIs where you can do BVN check, identity check. B2B also, there's something called Verify, and Verify enables you through APIs to check NIN. NIN is the national identity number in Nigeria, your BVN. And so on the business to business side, I've experienced a lot of that, but as a consumer, I haven't utilized it, maybe because I am biased towards my own product, but I just haven't been able to try it out. But we have seen a lot of products that are not based on APIs that are out there, sort of supporting the financial inclusion aspect, supporting the unbanked, but not necessarily standing on top of for a consumer product. I know that there's something called Reach. Reach is what does the aggregation of accounts. I've tested that to see what it was like, but as a consumer, I haven't used that.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting, right? Because in Europe, there are some use cases enabled with open banking, both B2B and B2C. And sometimes we tend to take it as granted. I think Ismail, in Europe, there have been a lot of apps, financial apps. Even, when we go on the website to make a payment, we don't have to leave the website to make the payment. So with payment initiation, what's your thoughts around it, about what has been enabled in Europe around PSD2 essentially?
I think there are lots of use cases and apps popping up. I think in particular with COVID, it was open banking was a great facilitator, to distribute funds on the right, at the right time, right? So and also, as you said, in terms of payment in Europe, basically you have, like today, you have another way to pay online, right? So before you had, I don't know, credit cards, PayPal, and now you have sort of open bank your account to account, which is cheaper than going through your credit card. So no, I think there and like airlines are providing that today, different e-commerce websites. So it's really moving, and I think in the UK it's like over how many millions of people are already using open banking. But I think the key insight, and maybe going back to Bunmi's point a little bit, it's like no one cares about open banking. As a consumer, you shouldn't care about open banking. If it's done right, it's in the background, and you just go about your life, and you get yes, you get a loan. It's easier to get a loan. Yes, you pay online. It's easier the experience, and you can get your aggregated view on data and so on and so forth. But really, you should not care about open banking. Open banking is just a facilitator or an enabler to that, right? Like we are in the industry, so we care about that a lot. But I think from a consumer perspective, if it's done right, it should be really transparent for consumers. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, true. In the UK, you're right that open banking, it was very widely across the different organizations looking to offer products. I've been quite amazed recently as part of my house move, that the house move kind of provider was providing different scenarios, different providers as well, different energy providers and internet providers. And this is actually being enabled by open banking, quite interestingly, by looking at the spending patterns across my past bills, and then calculating the best deal that could be potentially provided to me, to my particular use case. So we can see here that open banking is just a technology, right? But we can look, as Bunmi mentioned, way beyond open banking. It's more a notion of open finance. How could we open finance to all the providers, all the players into the ecosystem in a collaborative manner, right? We have banks in Nigeria, we have telcos, we have the fintechs, we have all of the bunch of other actors that are trying to foster how banking services could serve more population, right? How could the unbanked be served better? And now the likes as well of agency banking, trying to bring finances and the financial products to the unbanked. So this is very interesting, I think.
So maybe I have a quick question on that. So you mentioned the CBN circular, right? So what's the scope of that circular with regard to open finance? Is it limited to payments and account transactions, or is it more ambitious?
Yeah, so at the moment, there are 4 different tiers with the data being authorized by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So the 2 first tiers are around data that essentially that you can find publicly already. Mm-hmm. The 3rd tier is around account data, balance, transaction data, and the 4th tier is around decisioning. So if your based upon the data aggregated, you're giving a credit rate to a particular customer that will fall into the fourth tier. So there is a tier model being applied at the moment in the framework.
I think this is very similar to the Hong Kong initiative, like the HKMI, I think, the Hong Kong regulator. I think they have this very similar tiered approach. I think it's definitely interesting, you know, to onboard the banks and onboard the actors in a timely manner. So no, that's cool. And what about the okay, you talked about the data. No, okay, that's okay, that's cool. And what's the reaction of the local banks? Are they eager to participate? They are not. Like, what do you think is the most challenging for them?
Yeah, Bunmi, maybe I will give you a word for this.
Yeah, sure. So it's still a framework. It's still something that they've pushed out there. Hasn't been fully adopted yet. But I think there is the general excitement, but there's still a bit of resistance, my opinion. You know, you still see a number of institutions wanting to sit on their data, fearing that if they were to open that up, that they would lose their customers, you know, to the fintech that's more agile, you know, more customer focused to the needs of the customer. Typically what you see around the world is that, you know, you see a bank as traditional and being legacy, you know, worrying more on the core, which is usually deposits, right? And then, you know, they've optimized around that. They've diversified around more than deposits, maybe fixing, you know, lending, mortgage and whatnot. But beyond that, they've not done things that, you know, you've seen right now, lifestyle, you know, what are the lifestyle recommendations that I look at? If you look at the big tech, the Amazons, the Googles, and what they're doing with the data that they have and collaborating and becoming payment facilitators, you know, we are not thinking like that right now. And that's why we see it as a limiting factor, as open APIs as a limiting factor rather than something that can be explosive and increase, you know, exponentially the revenue that could be generated by a traditional bank, especially one that is very grounded with a lot of customers, someone like a GTB. So not saying that they're not, not saying that they're not open to it. I'm just, you know, just an example of some of the banks that we have here doing some things around innovation. So you're seeing that everyone has their own innovation outfit, their own innovation firm, you know, the GTBs, the First Banks, Sterling, a lot of the banks, you know, Access Bank with FinTech Foundry. So they're innovating within, but then again, we have a problem where we're neglecting the open APIs, where we're aggregating the data and you know, broadening what we have to be able to innovate and give products that are specific to the needs. And one of the things that I think maybe as a bank you know, I would recommend that a bank look at is think about your customers have multiple banks, you know, and they transact in different ways across different touch points. You know, what you have is just a collection of the transactions they've done on your rail. So you need to consider transactions they've done outside your rail, and that includes other financial services. You know, yes, you know, banks, yes, but then insurance, then, you know, typical transactions, you know, I go shopping or whatnot, POS transactions that may not be on your rail. So those are the things that I think that maybe we are thinking about, but we're still worried about losing our customers, being out of touch with our customers, you know, talking from a bank's perspective maybe, or from a traditional institution. So yes, there's some, I think that as an idea, it seems like a great thing, but in terms of actual adoption, you know, the steps that have been taken to actually realize that I don't believe I've seen much around that. People are still very well doing things in silos, and this is what the framework is trying to curb. You know, not having data in silos, but having data aggregated so that it could be useful and meaningful for the ecosystem.
Yeah, I think this is really interesting what you're saying, Bunmi. I don't know if it is, you know, I think there is a shift of mindset that should happen, right? Within a more collaborative framework between the different actors, right? How can we serve better at the end of the day, the consumer, but how can we also collaboratively drive the financial market to gain more market shares, right? Serve better our customers. And at the end of the day as well, drive new revenue streams for our own corporation, leveraging on products that our competitors might be offering that we may want to leverage, right, for our own customers. And this is really interesting. There's one notion, I think, which is starting to get explored in Nigeria, but quite common already in Europe, which is the notion of marketplace, right? And I think, Ismail, you may have, a good sense of, experience about this. Is how me as a corporate can I leverage on the products of my potential competitors, right? So I can offer them in turn to my own customers. And the benefit would be obvious. I don't have to recreate everything from the ground. Each time I want to offer a new service, a new channel to my customers.
No, absolutely, Fred. And I think there is also the idea of, speed to market, right? So again, we can't do everything on our own on time. So by collaborating, we can go much faster. And, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't mean we're collaborating. It doesn't mean we're collaborating on everything. We can compete on some stuff and yet collaborate on other stuff, right? So I think it's really this smart, nimble, and agile approach to things, which really is what distinguish the successful companies from the others. And maybe going back to Bunmi's point, I think I hear what these banks are saying, and this is definitely legitimate concerns. But at the same time, maybe the banks should realize, in Nigeria, should also realize that, well, number one, there is a risk that they get obsolete. They can get leapfrogged by other actors, fintech or not, local, and there are amazing success stories in Nigeria, but also global. You talked about Google and Amazon. We know that every one of these big actors are doing stuff in financial services. So there is a risk there. And then there is an opportunity. If you're, as we say, smart, nimble, agile, you can actually transform this open banking into a huge opportunity to get a new client, better serve the underserved banking population, revamp your tech stack, produce or bring new services to market faster, etc., etc. Have this platform approach that you mentioned, so which really reduces costs and speed up your time to market, and give you a broader scope of services and ultimately benefit to the customer. So I think, look, I think it's complicated, and I've been there, right? Like I've done that for many years, and I've talked and heard the bank's concern for many years. And again, I feel it's definitely legitimate, but there is, and it's complicated, but in all this chaos and in all this new regulation, new technology and so on, I think there is a path towards making something beneficial to the end user and to the bank itself, to the financial institution. And maybe that path is through doing everything on your own, maybe, but it's also maybe by collaborating with the likes of Hadada, the likes of some other fintech actors. And I think this is exciting. This is the challenge, and this is really exciting, right? Because it's new, and it holds so much potential. So it's really cool to be a banker in Africa today.
Yeah, I think within the financial industry in Africa today, it's a very exciting place to be for the right mindset, right? The collaborative mindset. How can we thrive, right? How can we thrive together as an industry, right? And within that thriving mindset, how can we each other find interests that might converge, but also in some cases, of course, diverge? And how open banking can be an enabler for this to happen, right? Open banking would be the solution for everything, but open banking can be an enabler, something that can empower this to happen. So yeah, I think it was a quite interesting conversation, and maybe some last word here. So for you, Bunmi, what would be the next steps for you that you are seeing here happen in Nigeria and across the sub-Saharan region with the likes of the Central Bank of Nigeria creating this framework?
Yeah, I think definitely the adoption is going to happen. It's just a matter of when. I think with CBN's cashless policy also, we're going to see more discussions around opening up to other players. So beyond the financial institutions that are identified in the framework, then we may look at things around social media. We'll look at things around agency banking, mobile money, you know, so those are already in there, but more in a prominent way to enable us to gather data for the unbanked. So what we realize right now is, of course, there's no historical data or transactional data for the unbanked. They do transactions differently. Lifestyle is different, you know, they may not have access to the smartphones, they're using feature phones. And so the sort of use cases that may apply for the bank do not apply to the unbanked. So as CBN is trying to push its cashless policy and ensuring financial inclusion, we'll definitely see more players, you know, utilities, telcos, using that data to enable financial services for the unbanked. And I think it's critical because we have different disparate ethnicity, different needs. You know, this is where really open banking will really come in, right? Open banking, open data, because when you go in further into those regions, they absolutely have different needs. They have unstructured data that is not going to, that does not give you the same patterns or easy patterns that you would see with the bank, right? And so it becomes very important that the framework enables other players to be able to support that financial inclusion stretch that we're looking out for. So I definitely see adoption, and I see that you know, different stakeholders coming into play to push financial inclusion.
Yeah, very true, very true. And for the actors trying to push for financial inclusion within the unbanked regions, I really think, you know, as Ismail mentioned, all the actors do not have to build everything from the ground themselves. There must be some collaboration in the industry. So if there could be some sort of enablers, you know, trying to connect the dots within this huge amount of data, both structured and unstructured data, so companies in turn can thrive and use it in a collaborative and intelligent manner for their own use case. I think that would be a really you know, interesting path ahead. And certainly the framework from CBN will also help the industry collaborate better in a more structured manner, I would say.
Yeah, and I think maybe if I have a last word, maybe some quick recommendations. I think going back to my first point, you know, no one cares about open banking. So in the end, it's an ungrateful thing, right? But if we do it right, as you know, actors in this field, we should make it very simple to the end user and very transparent to the end user. So I think that's one thing. The second thing is I'm a very big proponent of standardization. So when you talk about CBN framework and APIs and open banking, I'm very much in favor, and I do definitely recommend standardization across the sector. You know, that leads to less fragmentation. It's ultimately better for the fintechs and better for the end user and better for the banks. And then, yeah, maybe like, you know, having this strong ecosystem buy-in, stakeholder buy-in, you know, like I think if we are to design a standard, if we are to design a framework and regulation, that's great, but it's not just the job of the regulator. I believe there's definitely room to include, you know, private sector, the traditional banks, but also the fintechs and new actors such, you know, like you guys, aggregators. I think it needs to be a conversation between all these parties, so that you build something that actually people want. So yeah, no, but then it's like definitely, I keep a very close eye on Nigeria, and it's really exciting you know, what's coming in the pipe.
Yeah, very true. So thank you guys again, and thank you again, Open Banking Way, for having given us this opportunity to speak today. And of course, we look forward for any feedback or comment that you may have. So feel free to comment.
All right, cheers. Thank you guys. Bye.